Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Paul Adepoju, and I'm the Community Manager for the ICFJ's Pamela Howard Forum on Global Crisis Reporting. And I'm glad to welcome you to today's session, which is the finale of our two-part webinar series on how to start on media entrepreneurship. But last week, it was really a fascinating session in which we were able to actually have real life practical experiences of some of the world's most impressive media innovations and projects ongoing. And today promises to be even much better than last week, as we also have a very interesting panel of experts today that will be helping us to make a better sense of our deliberations today. So I'd like to start by introducing our mentor for today, who is Kristen. I think Kristen is, if I'm right, currently New York City based. How are you doing, Kristen?
I'm really good. Busy times in New York. Everything picked up again.
Oh, yes. So I think that has to do with the UN General Assembly, if I'm right.
Yes, exactly. Everybody's here.
Yeah, it seems everybody is in town today. So let me also welcome Alejandra from Okotsi. Did I get that right?
Yeah, perfect, Paul. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we are also joined by Golin, who is joining us from Tayit. How are you doing, Golin?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, and to all our audience, as we usually say, we are always interested in knowing where you are joining us from, and thank you for joining us. And if you can also tell us where you are joining us from today using the chat option on the Zoom platform, we would like that. And we're also streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, I think on 2 pages. We are joining you live on the IGNet Facebook page. We are also streaming live on our forums Facebook pages. So whichever of these Facebook pages you are joining us from, we also want to know where you are joining us from and your current status in media entrepreneurship. If you have any questions that you would like to ask our panelists today, we will be glad to really take them on. So to lay the framework, to lay the background, I would like to let Kristen start. Tell us what the things you are supposed to know, what you think you are not supposed to know. So let's call Kristen's session the revelation or genesis of media entrepreneurship. And we'll go into the session. Do you like that, Kristen?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, why not? Why be humble? Totally. So yeah, I'm really happy. Thanks again for the invite here. And just to give you like a little bit of my background, I moved to New York in 2014 in order to be part of the entrepreneurial journalism program at CUNY at the City University, which for me was really new because back then nothing like that structure existed in Germany. And I really like the idea that there you can bring together journalism with knowledge about how to start your own projects, how to become a media entrepreneur. And but it also really changed my perspective on how to start things or how to approach things. And even though I did not completely follow through with the project I was working on in the initial program in those 5 months, it totally changed my perspective, how I approach entrepreneurship, how I approach starting new projects in media now. And that's also why I came up with a little piece of advice that I call the 5 lessons for new projects for today. And it's basically a summary of how me being from German, always like doubting yourself, being strict, changed with moving to New York. And so I hope this kind of works. Okay, let's make this a bit bigger. It's just basically like pictures to make what I say a bit more substantial. So I was thinking I'm going to walk you through, if you, let's say you have an idea, let's say you just started out, and you usually have your doubts, you wonder what it is that you're supposed to do in order to get a new project off the ground. And a couple of doubts that you usually have, I try to work away with what I'm saying. Number one, these are the Winkelvoss.
Christian, can you put it on full screen? Put it on full screen.
Let's see. Sure. Like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure. Number one, these are the Winkelvoss twins. The people who initially who said that they had the idea for Facebook. And in the Social Network movie, there's this great scene where they are with the dean of their university, and the dean says, well, and they are complaining that they had the idea, but Mark Zuckerberg followed through on it. And they said, well, but you're Harvard students. You have to just come up with a new idea. And Mark Zuckerberg also tells them in the movie, well, you might have had the idea, but I was the one following through. So I think it's really important to understand ideas are overrated. It's about executing on them and really following through on them consistently. It takes a while to build a podcast. It takes episodes, but people will come very slowly. And it's more important to think about it. Oh, how can I add 10% new listeners with each episode? Then think, how can I get this to 10,000 people as fast as possible? Because that's usually what happens. Number two, this is a bit of an old picture of launch rock. Don't wait, start it already. We live in a time where for nearly everything, every problem that you have, there is an app, there is something that can help you online to actually do it. If you have an idea, you can come up with a sign up page like LaunchRock is, and you can start collecting emails. Whenever you are in a call, even a call like this, and you say, okay, here's my idea, then it's really stupid if someone says, oh, that's cool, can I go see it? And you say, oh, well, it's just an idea. Again, going back to like, ideas are nothing. And if someone is interested on it, you're losing out on an opportunity to collect data from the person, be it like the number in order to get back to that person on WhatsApp, or be it his email address to write a newsletter, because those are the people who might be your biggest evangelicals later on, the people who do the work for you. Number three, if you're not embarrassed by the way your thing looks, you're launching too late. So this is the initial website of Amazon. It's a bit, I mean, okay, sure, 25 or 30 years of internet history have happened since then, but still, don't get trapped into perfectionism. If you have 3 typos in your newsletter this week, then next week you're just going to have 2 typos. It's fine. People don't care that much. But it's much more important for you to learn what kind of feedback you get and whether the ideas and assumptions that you had are the right ones and how you can work on from that. Number 4, pivot. If anyone still knows what that is what Google Wave looked like. And Google Wave's idea was to bring together Google Messages and pictures and even groups in a way. It did never really get a lot of traction. And Google is also a great example for a company that gives up projects that are not working. But with the pivot, I mean, always be open to let your audience guide you what you have to do. I think it's really, really important to understand that we as journalists, journalism is not an art, it's a craft. And for me, the difference is an artist starts with themselves and puts it out there. Whereas we as journalists, we have to start with the audience and cater to the needs of the audience. It's this claim also coming from CUNY, from Jeff Jarvis, the professor there, of saying journalism as a service. And Google also was really, really great in dropping projects or things that are not working. But also what's interesting here is you see, oh, well, parts of it now look like the Google Mail of our days, or parts of it even look a bit like Slack. So things that you do will find their way into new projects as well. Number 5, You need a hipster, a hacker, and a hustler. Meaning, when you start a new project, it's very rare that you yourself can actually fulfill all the important roles. Meaning, the hipster is the person who has the idea, who has the design knowledge, who probably has an eye for graphic design. The hacker is the person who can get the idea on the road, who can actually program or code or produce a podcast. And the hustler is, I think, someone we underestimate a lot. You need a sales and marketing person, or you need someone who's comfortable with fulfilling the sales and marketing stuff. So that's why there's here Matthew McConaughey from Magic Mike. So it doesn't have to be you for all three of it, but you need to have a team or like a mindset that asks you, can I actually fulfill all these three things? It helps to have a structure that helps you organize all your thoughts, because a new project is complex, and starting out in entrepreneurship is complex. And one of the most famous ones, if you've worked a bit on media entrepreneurship, you might have seen this already. I'm just going to very quickly walk you through it. Is called the business model canvas. The business model canvas, you basically it has three parts. One is to the left, key partners, key activities, key resources. That's the part looking into the company. Second part is to the right, value proposition, customers, customer relationships, and channels. That is the part that is looking towards the market. The two most important ones are the value proposition and the customers. It usually starts with you having the idea and then you really refining the idea. I will talk about it a bit more afterwards. And then the customers look for a really, really small group. I will talk about that too. And then the base is the cost and the revenue. Where does the money come from? Where does it go to? What do you spend it on? A value proposition here is one of the models that I found. It's basically, imagine you are somewhere and someone asks you, so what it is that you do? And you say, well, to give you an idea of Crowdreporter, which is the biggest crowdfunded journalism website in Germany that I was a part of, the founding team, or that I am still a part of. So there I write a daily newsletter, and I would say Crowdreporter Morgenpost offers a news overview for people who need a cheat sheet about the news and who might be embarrassed to talk to their colleagues at the water cooler about the news. We do this by explaining 3 topics in an easy to understand way. And so you easily have an understanding, and you can do it even easier by saying, we help X to do Y through Z. So X, a group of people, to better understand the news through a newsletter, for example, or to be more closely connected to their city through a podcast or whatever. And I always put here this picture of a car, because I think it is really important when you write a value proposition like this to be aspirational. And you never see a car ad that shows you in Midtown and everything sucks and you're stuck in traffic. It's always a car that shows you on what it's like to drive at a beautiful beach, or at least like at a clear street, because the idea is you need to see yourself driving that car. And the same way, if we start a media entity, we need to tell people, well, this is a background site for news that really helps you understand the context of things. And it's really made for you on a Sunday afternoon when you're with your iPad on your couch and you have an hour to understand what is going on. And then people can see themselves. They see this aspiration. And I also said, okay, well, 2 things there. That's probably a bit too much for our thing. But 2 last things. Be really specific with the value proposition. Try it on other people. I can stop screen sharing to show me wildly gesturing. Be really specific with your value proposition. Try it on other people, and also be really, really brave with your target audience. One takeaway I have is you should always rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing. So if you want to do like a newsletter, don't say, oh, it's a newsletter for young parents. Say it's a newsletter for young parents who moved to Midtown New York within the last year. And then you get ideas what you want to write about. You get ideas of how to do the market research. And also what is really important, especially if you have a small team, it keeps you going because you get the interactions with the people that you're writing for. And it's always motivating when you get a feedback from someone that is like not your mom or the first person signing up that you don't know, but they need to feel this strong connection. And there's this great TED talk by Simon Sinek called Start With Why, which I can only recommend everyone. And he also says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So show them what your mission is, and they will be attracted to the mission and flock to the mission, not to the newsletter. And now I see there's like a gazillion things. Oh, in the chat, it's where people come from. Okay, that's awesome. Kosovo, love it. Pakistan, that's crazy. Yeah, that was that. That was like fast. But there's a recording. Watch the recording. Watch it to like, let me put you to sleep.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kristen. I'm seeing some hands raised. I don't know if those are questions that people want to ask. We couldn't take people's live questions last week, but I really want to take as much as possible. So if you want to ask a live question, raise up your hand, and also use the Q&A option for your questions. And we'll go to that later. Ali, let me see if Ali wants to talk. Hello, are you there? And Sajid, I'm seeing both hands raised. Okay, we'll come back to, I think we should probably come back to the questions later on. I'll be back with the questions. Please keep your questions going on, and we can also ask via the Q&A option on the Zoom platform. But for now, let's now talk about the real life experiences. Let's talk about how innovations that started, how mid-year entrepreneurship has started. We got a lot of examples last week that are really impressive, but these two founders and co-founders that we have today also have really great stories to tell, and their own projects are also standing out in their own way. So let's start with Alejandra. And I don't want to say what Alejandra will still say again. So it's better I leave the platform and let Alejandra do the talking.
Thank you, Paul. It's so unfair to be after Christian because it was great. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, and I just gonna show you. This is Ocote. Ocote is the name of our media. It's a piece of kind of wood, and with this thing you can light the fire, and it make to stay longer. So, Paul, can I share my?
Yes, please. Yes, please. You can go ahead. So while Alejandra does that, use the Q&A for your questions, so it will be much easier to track them all. Thank you.
Okay, here we are. I'm sorry, I'm already taking longer time. So I'm gonna talk about the experience of Ocote. Ocote is, we are in Guatemala. Guatemala is in Central America. It's just behind Mexico for the people that it's not so related with Central America. And it was I'm absolutely with Christian about the idea. If it's just an idea, it's not gonna work. But I think it starts with a dream or an idea, and you have to stick to this idea or this dream, and from this point you can start. So this is we are the founders of Ocote, and it's a multidisciplinary team. It's a poet, an artist, TV producers, and me as a journalist. we were missing the hustler in this moment of the idea or the plan. So this is some of the lessons that we learn we started 4 years ago. So it's in some senses, I think it's so good to just stop and think about it. Maybe it's going to be contradictory with what Christian is saying, but it's not exactly. But I think it's so important to think in a strategic plan, to take the time to just get into a cave and think about it, because this plan is going to give you like the steps to go to your goals, or to reach your goals. Think about the mission and vision. Sometimes it can be so boring to do this kind of stuff, but I assure you that it can make you have more grounded ideas, and also with these ideas grounded, you can sell it. You can sell to founders, or you can sell to investors, etc. And also it's so important, if you start with friends, with colleagues, etc., it's also important to start doing an organization chart and think about responsibilities, because sometimes everybody is doing everything and it can be a mess. So it's good to just start from the beginning, saying who's gonna do what, or who's good for each of the jobs. And also I think it's good to think scalable, because sometimes we have this big, huge, enormous dream, and it can be overwhelming. And I think it's good to have this huge dream, but it's start with a step, no? So you can, I think it's useful to think, okay, this year we're gonna be in this step, next year in that, and you have time enough. So I think also that it's important, even that when you are doing an entrepreneurship, this is a so hard work word. You have to, you want to start and do things, but it's so important to have things that I call the DNA information, or the non-negotiables for your media or your project, that is like values or things that you are not gonna change for anything. For example, in Ocote, we have these DNA things that is like we plan it to be like a media for that is led by a majority of women. This comes because in Guatemala and most Central America, and maybe the world, most of the media is led by men. So for us, it's important to have women in charge, or taking decisions. It's multidisciplinary, so the idea is that journalists and people from social science, from art, etc., to make the products or the content. The ethics, for sure, creativity and looking all the time. This is a non-stoppable research of new narratives. We try a lot, and diversity related with identification. In Guatemala is a population with 42% of indigenous people. So it's for us important to have this representation and talk about this diversity and also independence. Paul, make me some sign if I'm taking a lot of time, okay? Because I can see the watch. Also, it's important to see what is the context where we are, because it's not a unique recipe for everybody. So what it works in the United States probably is not going to work in Central America, or is not going to work in Africa, etc. So it's so important to know in what is our political scenario, and also think about these possible scenarios in the future, because especially in our countries, it can be so changeable that that we have to think about it. Also the legal things, because it's important to have like your in our case to have like a legal representation, In the case of Guatemala or Ocote, we have two legal brands, something like that. One is an NGO and the other is a company, because with that we can make different kind of sustainable plans. You know, from the NGO we receive funds. That is most of the money that we receive, or how we run the project, and also a company that that gives communication services, and it gives money for the sustainability of the media. And also there are social reality, the cultural reality, and the consumer situation. So this is other. And of course, if it's some, I don't know if it's in the rest of the world, but at least in Guatemala or Central America, it seems like the journalist made a poorness vote, you know, that we have to be poor, or it have to be so precario, like, yeah, that we don't have to think in money. Sometimes it seems that money is a bad word, or that journalist doesn't know how to manage finances, accountant, etc. So it's so important to just delete this idea and think that money is important, because it's gonna give you the possibility to do your work. So it's important to plan this sustainability model. It can change. I'm gonna tell you about that later. And there is the canvas that Christian already talked about. It is so enlightening to do this, because it makes you think about how you want to work. And income diversification is it's like a phrase in Latin America that is called "not all eggs in the same basket." It means if you lose the basket, you're not gonna lose all the eggs, you know. So it's important, at least in our experience, to have different kind of incomes. So you are gonna have more grades of independence for sure, and you're gonna be safer in some sense. And this is the photo where the founders just received the first fund to run the project we were celebrating. The audience already, Christian talked about it, but it's so important to think who are you talking. I'm not going to repeat what he already tell it. It's so great, but it's going to make you think about how you're going to talk to the people that you are talking. How is going to be with the aesthetic of the website, if you are thinking about the website, how is going to be the way that you reach them, etc. So just take a lot of time to design it and think about it. It's the usual thing to exercise to paint who is your audience. I think is so useful, because it makes things easier. And other thing for us is like essential is it will be collaborative, or it not will be, to have these alliances with other media in your country, in other countries, and not just media, organizations and cultural centers, different kind of alliances. It's so useful because it enriches your work and the possibilities to grow your audiences also. So when you are in the road, it can be messy. If when you already start and you launch, etc., and you start and this is crazy. It's like a running thing that you think that you can stop, that you can't stop. And I think it's important, because even in the road, you're gonna think you're gonna have to take decisions about how you are doing it, and you have to keep, at the same time that you are driving, you have to take decisions, and sometimes fix things that are not working. So it's and the road also, like you can see in the right, it can be messy. So the advice is to take the time to monitor, to evaluation, and to have a learning plan, because sometimes all the evaluations and the mistakes just are left in the past, and you can and maybe you're gonna be repeating the same mistakes forever. So it's important to take the time. It's better if you take the time in the beach, if you can do it. And also other of the advice is to keep learning, never stop. You are driving and it's a lot of time that you are investing in your project, but take the time to learn. And I talk about just what we are living right now, and it's the project of Elevate and make us, even that you think yet that you know everything, and it's not. And it gives you new perspective, new ideas of how to grow, and even for the team, for all the team, for sure. And I think it's so important to think and care of the team that it is working and it's growing. And you are thinking about journalism and audiences and everything and sustainability, but it's also important to do a consolidation of the institution or the organization, to think about protocols, manuals, or how you do that your media is strong, even if you are in countries that can be difficult, and also the strengthening of the team through professionalization courses, and also of exercises of self-care and conversation. And also the last advice is give you the permission to refresh and to rest and to rethink, because it's also important. And that's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, thank you very much. And the last presentation, the last but definitely not the least presentation, we'll be hearing from Gulin's team at Teyit. So tell us what the project is all about. What were you thinking when you started a project, and anything that you think is worth sharing before we start this panel discussion that I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yeah, great. So I don't have presentation first, so you have to see my face, but I hope it's okay. And maybe I can just briefly explain how we started our works and what is the trigger for us. So a year before we decided to launch Tate, 500, maybe more than 500 people lost their lives due to the bombings and explosions in Turkey. So our traumas just were moving from offline to online places, maybe vice versa. So the messages or the polls sent via WhatsApp or other social media platforms and about, for example, places to be attacked. So it's really important, such a circulation, such a misinformation, disinformation, just causing panic. Just triggers something and for us, and the message spread panic. So the first thing is we did a problem definition when we just looking at our traumas and our conditions in Turkey. So Tate was established particularly for tackling and preventing misinformation and disinformation spreading during the crisis times and during the times of traumas. So while working on Tate, also a coup d'etat was attempted in Turkey. So this was a kind of a demonstration of what kind of environment Tate was born into, and what we will struggle in the near future. So we had many elections, many cross-border operations, and many other crisis times. And so during that times, we need accurate information for people and the public interest. So the first thing is, I can just totally suggest that you need a problem definition according to your conditions and for the public interest, if you really care about the public interest, of course. But the main thing is you need to understand what people really need. So the other thing for Tate, what is the starting point? We established Tate in the Social Innovation Center which is a social incubation program and support program for actors aiming to create better solutions to social and environmental problems inside a university, TED University. So it's a kind of an incubation program, and our basic goal was establishing TED and run an organization at least for 1 year with the help of this incubation center with different mentorship. And we actually had a place, sharing a place with other social enterprise, help us collaborate with them and with the different level. And we can ask questions anytime when we had hard times on any issues like financial issues, institutional issues, legal issues, and whatever you just get in your mind. So luckily we had a very, very supportive mentor who also had of this incubation center. So it's really important to getting help and finding a place first while trying to just establishing an organization. So it's okay, you don't have to be on your own self. So basic benefits of such a programs or such institutions is for us a space, for example, and we understand the social innovation and change. So we also get help for the impact tracking understanding and building our own theory of change. Theory of change is a kind of a different canvas, like Christian and Alejandra mentioned about the business canvas, and it's a theory of change is another type of canvas, but it's just show you what is the future ideal for your organizations and what is the ideal world for you, and you imagine the ideal world and then just get back to real world. So it really help you to what is your aim, so what is your goal for the future. So then of course we started the work. We are doing fact checking, we are trying to publishing articles to empower people on digital literacy. So, but we understand the problem better. So we are also evolving. So while we are evolving and problem evolving, so you should evolve your organizations also. So you should evolve your work according to the needs of different target groups and the problems you define at the beginning. So we all the time act with the system change perspective. So we need something to do to achieve system level change. But first we have to do something in the individual level, and then community level, and then system level. So we just define different interventions for individual levels. We do fact checking for everyone. So you can just get an idea about how you can fact check, how you can just be more digital literate. So on the community level, we just working with teachers, students, and journalists. So we are trying to create communities to more actually tackling with and creating more deeper relations with the different communities. So, but in the system level, we have a kind of an incubation and network program, which is called Factory. So we just trying to giving a mentorship, news media initiatives to just help them and trying to create a network and it's just sometimes talking what are problems in a Turkish media ecosystem, for example. So the other thing is you have to understand the different layers and different levels of the problem. So what's your main goal? And the other thing is you have to be data focused. I think it's really just make our works really, really easy sometimes, because keep your old data and trying to understand first your impact and the problem, and it's really help you to focus. So this data-driven understanding help us to see, for example, social media atmosphere clearly. So we make our impact bigger and we have an insight by this way. And we can talk with the social media platforms. Actually, we can negotiate with them and show them just their negative impacts with keeping our own data. So we could underline the problems better and demand from them something really for the change. So we publish reports with our own data. So we develop our own software for our working flow and keep our data more, how can I say, more concrete and more organized. So it's really important. And the last thing I really want to mention about the collaboration. We need the collaboration the more, and I don't know, maybe it's cultural, but it's collaborating is really hard in my country. It's really hard because it's sometimes it's risky, sometimes it's hard because you have to work more when you collaborate, actually, because you think that if you are collaborating, you maybe just make your work more easy, but actually it's not, because it's a collaboration needs time. So, but with the collaborations and with this understanding, we have a kind of a partnership with the media organizations of Istanbul public transportation system. They have screens, and we can put our videos on the public transportation in Istanbul. So daily, 4 million people see the screens and use this transportation. It's really important because it's just happened with this collaboration understanding. So I really understand the difficult conditions of the collaboration, but it's really important because it's just duplicate, maybe, I don't know, it's just make your impact. It's a really important step. So these are my takes. I hope you can understand without the presentation, and I'm sorry for this, but yeah, basically is this. Paul, you are mute. So.
And I already spoken like 2 paragraphs. So thank you. So thank you very much for providing the peek into the stories of your organization. And I think it's really, really important for our audience to see things, the same thing from different angles. And I think the conversations in the chat box are really, really exciting. And okay. And I think they are having their own conversations over there in the chat area. So one thing that used to bother me, and I think even during last week, is the issue of money seems to be everything. And personally, I used to think this is not the case, that you don't really need money to launch something great. But something is happening currently in the media landscape that I think, and I would like to start with Christian, on the reality of starting out big right at the outset. There is a new platform that I think they've not even launched, but I think they had already snapped up a lot of impressive journalists. I'm talking about Semaphore, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Even though they've not launched, they've actually been able to score a lot of high-profile interviews, including, they've not officially launched. If you go to Twitter, they actually have verified pages already. And they also have top journalists that are working with them. And so, which means if somebody wants to achieve this, if you think, I don't want to start gradually, I just want everything to be well set, the newsletters, people already paying for my newsletters even before we launch. Is that a realistic goal? And since people are doing it, how can that be achieved with the most minimum budget? So I'll start with Christian.
Well, I mean, I think it helps if you're the most famous media journalist in the world, and if you started out, and if you, like Ben Smith, did play a huge role in BuzzFeed that everybody looked to, or then you became like the media journalist for the New York Times. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Semaphore does. I think I'm very curious to see if they truly are able to pull it off the ground to be a truly like global media entity. So if you yourself are big, then sure, dream big. If you can convince big people to give you money, do it. I think what's really important is to understand that very often when we start out something new, we think, oh, if I do my own thing, I can get rid of my full-time employment and my stupid employer there. And if I do my own thing, then I will be independent. But the reality is, I mean, money doesn't just appear. Like you have to convince some entity to give you money. So it might be a founder, a generous founder. Then probably you have to ask yourself, okay, what is this person's benefit? It might be not benefit. What is this person's goal? It might be that you say, okay, I want to do a membership program, which is awesome because you get a lot of like direct feedback, but also you need a lot of people for it, and you need someone to take care of the members. If you are going for grants, then probably grants come with some bureaucracy, and you have to ask yourself, am I willing to do the paperwork? Do I need a grant person to take care of it? And so money is never fully independent, but at least you get to choose which fight you want to fight and which battle you want to be in. And there are certain things that certain people like more than others. And you're obviously like allowed to go for what you think is best for you. And I also do think that it's important to sometimes realize that specific ways of financing your business help you at specific stages. So so many people on the call come from African countries, for example, where probably it might make sense to look into international initiatives that offer grants in order to foster democracy in your countries. So then probably you don't have to brand it as a journalism website, but more as, oh, we are like as a civic entrepreneurial project, and we are strengthening democracy here, and that might open up new ways of financing your thing. We just happen to do it through media. And it might be a good strategy to say, okay, well, in the beginning, I'm looking for a couple of grants, and the grants, what the grants might do is that they buy you time. They buy you time to experiment. They buy you time to get an audience. And once you have an audience, it's easier to ask them for money and to monetize. And two last things there. One thing that we saw with Steady, it's a platform I'm on in Germany. It's a bit like Patreon, where you can build your membership projects, and they are doing the basically the handling. It is relatively constant that if you ask people who have a strong engagement with your brand for money multiple times, you will be able to convince about 5% of the people to give you money. And then you can do the work the other way around, you know, like if you know you need, I don't know, you need $1,000 and usually you ask people for $5, that means, okay, you need 200 people who subscribe to you. And if 1/20th of your audience subscribes to you, that means you need 4,000 people in your audience. And no, that was wrong. I'm a journalist. If I could do math, then I would be a programmer and not, I wouldn't do journalism. Anyway, you got the idea that you can do like the math backwards. And one last thing I wanted to say, because we said, okay, well, we don't come from a culture that has a lot of, that wants to pay money for journalism. I think it is really important to go where your audience is already at. So I really love the idea, okay, let's go to the metro system in Turkey, for example, and it's great. But it also works in small entities as well. Like, where do they already meet on Facebook, on LinkedIn? Is there a diaspora group for Venezuelan people in New York? Because usually I think we underestimate diaspora because they have money, usually a bit. They send money back, and they also want to feel the connection to their home country. But it goes a bit against, I want to build my own community, and it goes more towards where do they already meet and how can I become an important part of the community they are already in, offering help. And then the third or fourth post, you say, oh, by the way, we are also this media program or this media website. Maybe you want to check it out. Maybe you want to even become a subscriber.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we have a participant that would like to make a contribution. The name is not clear, but Galaxy A30. That's you. You can go for it. Hello, your mic, you have the floor. Hello. I don't.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Ali Afridi from Pakistan tribal district. Sir, I have a question. We are working without money and different newspaper. There is no income of source for a journalist. We are faced a very difficult an income.
I think, see, my hands are free. I didn't miss it. You can look at my hand. So I don't think that's from my hand, but I think I can help rephrase the question. I think it's talking about probably media entrepreneurship could serve as a way of fund generation, income generation for journalists in parts of the world that the news media is not as profitable. So don't let me start. I'm tempted to start with Christian, but Ayandra Gullin, do you have any thoughts on this question? Should media entrepreneurship be seen as a way or should be pursued as a way of monetization for journalists that are not getting paid enough?
I'm not sure if I really I get it, but it's like doing entrepreneurship in this kind of difficult context. Is correct, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, and also somebody in the chat is talking about working without payment or without money, and adding to what Christian was saying, I think you can launch without money. In Ocote, we did it at the beginning when we were creating it. We talk about living the Hunger Games, because we were just working without salaries or whatever, doing freelances, etc. You can do that, but I think you can't live longer without money because it's not healthy, and I think it's a dignification for our work that we have to pay to ourselves or pay for the people that is working. I think volunteering is great, but I think it's so hard to keep people doing volunteering for a long time because we need money to live. So this is difficult, and I think we in difficult contexts or where people spaces where people is not so used to give money for subscription or donations, etc., because it's other priorities like buying food, but or it's not the culture of subscriptions. I think we can start creating this culture. I'm absolutely in with Christian with the idea of the diaspora, because I think most of the time we are not looking at the people that already migrate, and it can be a great audience and also people that can help us, and also for the audiences to just like creating this culture of helping us. It's things like maybe they are not gonna give money for a project, but maybe they are, and I'm gonna do the advertisement. They are gonna buy you cups, or they're gonna buy you a notebook, because they are because like the culture is okay. I give you something and you give me something concrete to give me back. And I think it's the idea is growing, and then we can. It's not like a lot of money, but I think it's more about creating this culture of okay, let's help us.
Yes, thank you for that. Does Gillian want to come in? I think, do you want to add to that? I don't think so. Okay, so we have some interesting questions that I think one that Christian has answered, but I think is better for others that are not seeing that response to actually see it. So we have a question from Isabel. How would you ask for support if you are from a supposedly rich democratic country, which still secretly oppresses parts of its population as a media platform for human rights. So, Kristen, in a nutshell, what did you say?
Are you sure? I already took up so much space. My understanding of this is that it sounds to me a bit like a question of who specifically is the target audience for the entity, and who's supposed to pay for this. If it's a media platform for human rights, I think the actual then you're not looking like at a very broad audience. This is for the whole population, but it's more probably like community organizers or more people working in diplomacy, more people probably working in developmental projects. And there, I think you can play also with the fact that they sometimes have a professional interest in getting good information about these topics. And if you can show them that you are useful, that in terms of, wow, if you subscribe to our service, then you can basically like show off at your job, then I think it becomes something where you could ask for money. My initial feeling here would be that you can be really specific of who it is you want to reach, and then start to look for financing from there.
Yes, thank you very much. So there's this question that I think also started from the offshoot of what we did last week, and it's also becoming obvious. And I think everybody can chip in. We always say that don't wait, don't overthink it before you launch. But from what you've been saying, it seems as if fundamental understanding of what you want to do and the approach that you want to take, both of these are really, really crucial from the outset. Now, so let's say somebody was interested in, let's say there was a vacuum, there was a type of category of news service, news content that were not available in a country, that a journalist believe, okay, I could start filling that hole. And the next day, and eventually launched the website that was producing news content on it. Did not see it through as a business eventually. So for those that had already launched those kinds of ideas, so let's take it in a two-part question. What could be the critical and the most crucial step to be taken before launching out that you should not launch out without? And for those that had already launched and they are now realizing that they seem to be stuck or boxed to a corner, how can they go around about ensuring that things are normalized and the things in the business is well structured? So let's start with your experience, Gulin. How advanced was your team in preparing for this journey, and what reiteration did you do along the way?
But the good thing is, as I mentioned about, we launch our organizations in an incubation program, incubation center. So for this incubation center, actually, at first, we don't have an organizational structure, actually. So we can get funding by this center. So actually, it's really helped us to, we actually just, how can I say, just was trying to navigate our way. The first thing is this. The second, we actually learned controlling the money and understand how we can hire people, how we can just actually, lead the organization. So the first year is just give a chance to just build some more, how can I say, the more powerful organizations with the help of such an incubation program. So if you don't want to just immediately earn money, and if you don't ready, just trying to find such a programs, such a mentorship, and such a way to use other organizations or other group of incubations or whatever initiatives to help you to just navigate and find your way. And after that, you can just be ready to just maybe launch a new strategy for your finance. But please, you just put a limitation, time limitation for yourself. Because if you don't put any limitations, it's actually slavery, friends. So you have to need money to live. So you have to find money. So just put yourself, at my first year, we use such a supporting system, but then we just find the money for our organizations. So for ourselves, for our journey, such a programs helps us to find our ways, and we can just talk with other organizations and understand their ways also.
So I want to bring in Alejandra. Alejandra, I saw you nodding your head. Do you have any contributions to this?
I absolutely agree with Lynn. This kind of project, and if you we are journalists, so we can search and research. It's a lot of projects. When we started Ocote, I had the opportunity to be in the women leadership program from the ONA, and it was so amazing because this was in Los Angeles, and it was like planning and talking about audiences, etc. And in here we were not thinking about it, so it was so useful just before launching. But I think it's important to have a clear pitch for your project, or for what you for the idea that you want, so you can pitch this for this kind of spaces. Also here in Guatemala, it was another organizations that give support to entrepreneurships, not just media. It's entrepreneurships for restaurants, for hotels, for industry, and we were in there because it also helped us to think about the project. And I think this is important, not just think about the funds about media, or the help for just for media. It's another kind of resources related to business, related to entrepreneurships, and also related to funding, because sometimes we are just looking for the founders for media, but maybe, as Christian was telling, maybe some organization that is just dedicated to women, to human rights, to environment, and maybe they are not thinking about it, but they are gonna be interested in give money for the information, So look, open the eyes, I will say, and yeah, that will be.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, Kristen, what are your thoughts about normalizing and AFAZAD put together media initiative?
I think here I also want to underscore that if you're starting out, it's going to be a lot of work anyway. So you are allowed to also go for people that seem fun to you. Look for like who is the tribe, even in your audience, like look for the people that you want to be a part of. Give yourself the audience that you want to work with. Like, okay, we are a part of people who care about truth in Turkey, for example. And because also your media entity, even if it's like a podcast or a newsletter, it gives you permission to approach the people that you might really look up to. And so it's going to be a lot of work anyway. So come up with your own rules and do it for the people that you feel are fun. You don't have to just go for an audience that seems financially like the only financially feasible, because then people will feel that you're selling them a product and you're not necessarily really caring about it. And one last little thing, because we also spoke a lot about the idea or this question of how to find out what the audience really wants. A friend of mine, she runs an explainer format with videos in Germany for younger people. And when they started out, they just went in front of, they just went to schools and asked them, if I gave you 100 euros right now, what would you buy from it? And I thought it's a great question to ask to see what people really care about. Or for a lot of media entities, it could also be, if I gave you $5,000 to spend in the community, what would you spend those $5,000 on in order to improve life in the community? And that gives you great ideas for what your coverage might be. I like that you're nodding, Alejandro. Like, this is like handing it over.
Oh yes, thank you very much. So I want our panelists to take a break a minute, and I want to ask our audience a couple of questions. If you were with us last week, I answered this set of questions where I also tell you and also information. So the first question is this your first webinar that you are attending? Let us know. And also would like to know if you are already a media entrepreneur, whether you have a media entrepreneurship project on your own. Please look at your screen and engage and answer these questions. And we'll talk around with my panelists around these elements. I will come back to Golin and Alejandra. Before your ventures, before your latest ventures, were you interested, have you been an entrepreneur before? And Kristen can come in with this question too. Is every media entrepreneurship project supposed to last a lifetime? When should you say, okay, this is the time to kill this project?
The question is if I was an entrepreneurship before?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a good question, Paul. No, is that I had an experience, but not in journalism, because I've been like kind of curious or something like that. And I already had hostels, like backpacker hostels in Antigua, Guatemala, and Quetzaltenango. And also I had a bar in Guatemala City. So it gave me like this other kind of skills to like think about money and think about management and etc. So sometimes people was like, she's kind of crazy because she's a journalist and also have this business. But for me, in my experience, it helped me because it made me like give me some skills before we launched, So and in marketing also, etc. So yeah, I think it's good to just follow what your guts in sometimes, because it can give you different kind of learnings and experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, Golin?
To be honest, no. I was really far away from the being more initiative, more risky, because I was just really want to be an academician and very strict, very kind of structural work. So not really actually, but I just learned many things just during the way.
And Kristen?
I actually wasn't always a journalist. I had studied business before. I became only a journalist with age 26. I didn't do something like fancy, like a backpacking thing. But I remember when I was 16, I did the inventory at home improvement stores in Germany once, and I loved it so much that the next day I sat down and called all from the yellow pages, all the home improvement stores in my area. And I got my father to drive me there, which, I mean, and he loved it because like, oh, it's so entrepreneurial. And so now looking back, it feels like, oh my God, I did cold calling. And I'm always thinking like, oh, if I could do it when I was 16, I can do it now too. So, yeah. But with your other question, I want to give it back. That feels like, I need therapy for this, because I think it's really hard to know when to end a project, and I think what might help is to come up with a really good metric and say, well, if this is in 6 months not at 500 email subscribers, then I have to find a way to kind of like shift my resources, which I think is also important for metrics, not to just measure your success, but also to stop constantly worry or be paralyzed where you are with your project. And you have to, I think for me at least, it's really important to sometimes say, yeah, I could worry about this, but I promised myself that I will only worry in 100 days. And up until then, I will pretend as if everything is fine, because you can't be in the state of mind that like, every day it's like a report card is being handed out and you're not graded on every day's performance. It goes back to a bit what Alejandra said in terms of like, sometimes like have a day off, be easy on yourself. It's so much. And so, yeah, but when to actually start a project, I
think Christian is frozen and we've lost him for a minute. Now, so I want to, for our audience, let's look at, okay, Christian, yeah, you're finishing your statement?
Sorry, I had a little like Wi-Fi hiccup. I don't know, I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
the last thing
okay, the last thing you said, yes.
The last thing I said was, I'm really bad with actually knowing when to stop something, and I usually let it fizzle out. It's a bit of a weakness. I would be curious how you do it, because I think you have much, like Gülin and Alejandra, because I think you have much more in your leadership roles. You have much more the task to actually come up with decision criteria, let's say. When do you say, okay, this is not working?
Is that me or Gülin or Alejandra?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, because I think it depends of the project, you know, because it can be in sense of, okay, this kind of content or this kind of experiment with a platform is not working. I would say it can be like 3 months or 4 months. I don't know, you know. It depends also of how much energy or how much effort you are putting, and it's not working for sure. But and in terms of money, I think you can say, okay, this is it's also important to have this budget, because sometimes it's okay, let's do it, but you don't know exactly how much it's gonna cost. So have an exact budget of how much it's gonna cost, or how much money you can risk or expend. And if after that, if it start to be in red numbers, okay, say, okay, we can lose that kind of amount of money, but if not, okay, let's finish this story, you know. So I think it depends of the project and the amount of money that you have, but for sure you have to take decisions. And I think sometimes you have to take decisions like quickly, like, because you just stay doing it and it's not gonna, probably is not gonna change, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. And so we, looking at the results, that I'm always interested in knowing, yes, 30% are just joining us for the first time. So thank you for joining us. And for those that already have a media entrepreneur project, yes, only 28%, but up to 61% said they are planning to. Now, which begs the question, what is different now about the media entrepreneurship landscape, pros and cons, that you think, actually looking at the last couple of years, that I think anybody starting this journey in the present age needs to be prepared for? So I'll start with Gülin. So what do you think has changed about the media entrepreneurship landscape that is very, very relevant to take notice of right now?
Yeah, the good thing is the advantage, I guess, we are just talking more about the trust issue in media. So it take many initiatives, many organizations, and many philanthropists' attention. So it's really good time to just take your time and really understand the problem inside the media, and just doing for something. And maybe your chance to find your sources, your financial sources, can be more easier than before, I think. So of course, this is also disadvantage because trust issue is about the public. So it's really hard to find money from your audiences also, because they are not really very enthusiastic to give you money, because you have to just convince them about your impact, about your verse. So it's two-side issue, I guess. But so yeah, we have an issue, and we are discussing different financial models about media. And of course, the many media organizations also understand better about what is social media. So they can find a way to escape from them, also be part of them. So it's also a good time to put a financial strategy around earning money via social media or internet in general, but also find a different way to just also different kind of revenue sources also. I guess maybe these two things, I can just stop there.
Leandra?
Yeah, changes. In the case of Guatemala specifically, it's been like in the last 3-4 years, it have been like a lot of media, digital media, like us growing, you know. So it's kind of a huge competence, or maybe it's a fragmented media ecosystem. So it's kind of tricky because it's like a lot of small media, and we are maybe sharing the same audience, and it's kind of tricky. At the same time, it's your competition, but it's your alliances or collaboration. So it's interesting, I would say, but it's also um, a challenge, because you are also looking maybe for the same funds, or maybe looking for the same audience support, etc. So this is one of the changes. I think the conversation about social media is still we haven't resolved it, you know, because at the same time the social media is our friend, the algorithms is and are so tricky, and it can be our enemies at the same time, you know. So it's so tricky to find the way. I think letters, it's an excellent way to have this to go in another road, and look for other ways to reach the audience, because sometimes social media can be so tricky. And also a lot of people is talking about the trust thing, and Glenn also talk about it. Also in our region is like a big thing. It's a lot of campaigns against media, against journalism. So at the same time that we are doing our job, we have to do another work, that is convince the people that journalism is important, and media is important, and the defense of the freedom of the press is important, you know. And this just happened like 2 years ago, this new battle. So I would say these are the challenges.
Thank you very much. I would also like Christian to chip in, but I think Christian would do a terrific job helping us to summarize the challenge, prospects, and strategies to excelling in media entrepreneurship in the present day. So while you wrap your hand around it, I want to also inform our audience, participants, that last week I announced that we are having a small little challenge for initiatives, for media entrepreneurship initiatives, and which I think can get us some recognition and attention, and probably with some cash gifts. So we've already gotten some entries already. So, and I will be reaching, will be making a short list this week. So, which is why I would recommend that if you have a media entrepreneurship, that you think these lessons, this webinar would help you in any way improve upon, do not hesitate to let us be aware of such. So we have a Google form already for that effect, which I just posted in the chat box right now. We've already gotten some impressive entries, and you can also still select or submit yours. Please let us know, and we're going to reach out to you very soon. And so, which sets the stage for Kristen's remarks regarding the question I asked. So, Kristen, over to you.
First of all, I have to apologize that I constantly put Alejandro into Venezuela and not to Guatemala. But anyway, I don't want to let that slip. I'm sorry. I did my research like too late. Anyway, the since we were talking so much about trust, one thing that worked really well for Krautreporter was that we are very visible as individuals. So the newsletter I'm sending is not Krautreporter Morning Post or the Morning News. It comes from Christian from Krautreporter, which even actually improved the opening rate of the newsletter. And there's every day there's a picture of myself at the bottom. I have a send off every day where I have like a little quirky thing speaking about probably like life in New York or something that relates to the news. I always also make it positive. It's not picking on someone. It's not cynical. And people write me, oh, I enjoy the newsletter just because of the way you say goodbye. And that's why I read it, which is sometimes funny because it's like sometimes these surprising things that people actually really, really like. And you alone won't be able to restore trust in media as a whole. You alone won't be able to restore the trust in like big broadcasting channels if people are already doubting that. But what you can do is that people trust you individually by showing other people, okay, this is who I am. This is how I deal with making mistakes or with errors. And just write it the next day or the next time you have an opportunity to say, well, here we did something wrong. I did not look it up properly. And so I'm very sorry. And then you move on. I think there are people who want to give you the benefit of the doubt. There will always be people who say, well, this sucks anyway, and like, and I hate media, but you never convince them anyway. So don't focus on them. They are loud and shouting, but they're never going to come around. So be visible yourself. And what in a couple of the media projects I was in really helped is think of yourself as this indie group that someone can find, this indie music group, and help other people to be on board with like, oh, I know this really cool band and you should listen to their stuff. You should learn about this media project. And if you think of yourself as this like new cool band, then you also understand, what do I give my audience so that the audience can brag with being associated to me? How often do you give your audience an opportunity to brag with paying for you or to brag with reading your newsletter? Is it that they can brag with something that they read? Is it because they got, I don't know, like a special recognition through an email that you sent or whatever? But it's not just you sending the news. It's also you giving people an opportunity to, they want to show off with being associated to you. And so yeah, this trust thing obviously is gigantic and big. One last thing I wanted to say, we kind of touched it anyways. I think the infrastructure for help to get your project off the ground has improved so much. And COVID also helped to democratize it in terms of it's much easier now for also people who probably can't travel because because of money issues, or probably also B, because they take care of other people. And so the democratization of infrastructure, knowledge, and learning opportunities. That I think has really improved and is a great thing. And there I can just also only encourage everyone on the call, don't write yourself off. Don't take yourself out of the equation that you think, oh, probably the thing I'm having, the idea I'm having is not good enough for this and that program. Let the people who look at the application decide that. They are the ones who get to decide whether you're good enough or not, but don't like preemptively say you're not good enough. And because you never know what they're looking for. A lot of them are also looking for like diversity quota and are looking specifically for representation in Africa or probably like poorer countries. And so I can only recommend to like, yeah, just go for it. You're already not in the program, you know. The worst thing that can happen is afterwards you're also not in the program. So
thanks so much. So I want to give our other guests the chance to also talk about their projects. What's next? So let's start with Alejandra. So what is next with Okote? Where is your journey heading to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Paul. I think
So the question I want to know is what is next for your project?
Okay, perfect. I have some problem with the audio, but it's okay. And yeah, we are working, and we are this for example, this month in October we are launching the first Expansiva is the name. It's a festival about communications and journalism. I think is probably the first in Guatemala that is created from a media trying to do a net of journalists and media from all the country, and we're gonna have workshops and panels and conversations. So we are working very hard with Expansiva. It's going to be in the 13th, 14, and 15, and it's going to come people from the rest of the country. That is so important because here is so centralized the information. And we have also an exhibition of it's art and journalism that is right now in Antigua, Guatemala, one city just close to Guatemala City, and then we're going to go to the mountains in Guatemala, and then it comes to Guatemala City. So we are like doing a lot of stuff to restart the physical encounters with audiences and with other people. You know, we are kind of tired of the digital thing, and we are trying to create these spaces of conversation and of encounter. And we already have this strategical plan that is from 2023 to 2027, and for us it's so important to think about the future, you know. So we are just keep executing.
Okay, thank you very much. Then Golin, what's next with Take It?
The next year we have an election. It's really an important and very polarized, expected to polarize election. So for next year, we are just really want to focus on the politicians' statements, fact-checking the politician statements, the first thing this. And the second thing is we are just trying to empower university students against the misinformation on the election. So we are working planning to work in the different steers with the students. So we also have plans for teachers and media literacy projects. And yeah, we are also trying to build a new membership model for our website. So, and maybe a little bit tech development, yeah, for next year. Yeah, we are working on this.
Okay, thank you very much, and good luck on every of your endeavors. Do we have anybody that has a last remark I would like to point out? Kristen, anything you want to say? You were the first to shake your hand, to shake your head.
Thanks Thanks for organizing this. It's always like so important that you don't feel alone. I mean, a lot of the work that we're doing can feel really lonely, and so it's always good to be in community.
Yes, I agree with you. And we continue to build our community, and we continue to ask you to engage with us. So, which is why, once again, I will encourage you to join our Facebook forum. Here, I've put the link in the chat box. It's a forum of over, I think we are over 4,000. Approaching 5,000 already, and we also have it in different languages. So please and please, we share resources, insights, tools, opportunities, information about opportunities and anything, and we connect to whatever you are, whatever stage you are as a journalist. I encourage you to join us and be part of that forum. Just click the link directly. You'll be approved to join and to participate. And for you to know more about this initiative, I encourage you to check out International Center for Journalists website on www.icfj.org. And I also encourage you to access more resources for whatever you are passing. We are trying to do on International Journalist Network's website on www.ignet.org. So 2 questions that were asked that I think I need to answer. The first question is about the video. Videos of both sessions will eventually be available on our YouTube page, on ICFJ's YouTube page. This session and the one for last week will be available there. And like I said, the quickest way for you to know when the videos are up is to be part of our Facebook forum. The links will be shared with you, and you can also continue to use it for your own personal work. So please and please do not hesitate to be part of joining that Facebook forum page. And the second question that somebody asked, which is Winston, has to be about the certificate of participation. Yes, we said we are going to give you. So what we are going to do is by tomorrow, expect an email in your inbox, a very short form that you fill. And with that, we'll be able to put together your certificate of participation in both sessions. So please and please make sure you are working on your check on your email and quickly follow the instruction or fill the form that we send to your email for you to be able to get this certificate. So next week also promises to be exciting. We'll be having lots. I think we've had a lot of people on our panels this week than this month than any other months before. And next week is going to be really, really, really exciting. We have another interesting panel in which we'll be discussing solutions journalism, and we'll be focusing on news for children. We'll be taking inspiration for how to do better solutions journalism by talking to individuals that have been doing news for children. So that promises to be exciting. And the very, very last announcement that I have has to be about our in-person meeting that is happening in London later in the first week of October 6th. So we are having an in-person gathering in London at the British Museum. So if you will be in or around London on this day, please do not hesitate to register for participation. We have lots of goodies, lots of excitement, and it's absolutely free. So if you're in London, please click the link that I just put to register for our in-person meeting. On behalf of the entire team of ICFJ, we say thank you for joining us today. And many thanks to Kristen, Alejandra, and Gulin for participating. And we'll see you some other time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for accepting our invitation. We'll keep in touch.